Hey everyone, and welcome. So if you've ever written a line of JavaScript, I'm willing to bet you've slammed right into the dreaded reference error. You know the one. It just stops your code dead in its tracks. But what if I told you it's not just some random bug? What if it's actually a mystery, full of clues, just waiting to be solved? Okay, let's put on our detective hats and crack this case together.
You know, when your code throws a reference error, this is pretty much what the JavaScript engine is shouting at you. It's like it's throwing its hands up in frustration. It has looked everywhere it's allowed to look for the variable or function you mentioned, and it's come up with nothing. It literally has no reference, no idea what you're talking about.
So, to put it a little more formally, a reference error happens when we try to use something that either hasn't been declared at all or it just isn't available right where we're trying to use it. Think of this definition as our crime scene. The error message is that first critical clue, and it's telling us a name, but we don't have a face for it just yet. You see, this error isn't just random noise. It's a very specific message from our code. And just like any good detective, we're going to use this clue to track down the usual suspects behind this super common coding crime.
Our investigation is going to focus on these three main culprits. First up, we have the simple but oh-so-sneaky typo. Second, there's the scope trap, where our variable is basically hiding in plain sight. And third, we've got the early call, a classic case of just bad timing. All right, let's hunt them down, one by one.
Our first suspect is, without a doubt, the most common offender out there, the typo. It's a classic case of mistaken identity, and believe me, it trips up even the most seasoned developers. It's so simple, but it can be absolutely deadly for our code. Just look at how subtle this is. We declare a constant named myVariable with a capital V, right? But then we try to log myVariable with a lowercase v. To our human eyes, they look practically identical. But to JavaScript, they are two completely different things.
And this really gets to the heart of the issue. JavaScript is case-sensitive. That means myVariable and myVariable are as different to the computer as apple and apply. It's a non-negotiable rule. So remember, a single misplaced capital letter can turn your variable into a total stranger. That's why the very first thing you should always do is check your spelling and your casing.
All right, let's move on to our next culprit, which is a bit more devious. I like to call this one the scope trap. This is when the variable you're looking for actually does exist, but it's trapped somewhere that your code can't see it. Okay, take a look at this. We have a function here called secret room, and inside of it, we declare a variable called secret. Now the problem is that we then try to console.log that secret variable from outside the function, and JavaScript is just not having it. That variable's existence is locked inside that room. The best way to think about this is that those curly braces, whether they belong to a function, an if statement, or a loop, they create invisible walls. They make a private room. And any variables declared with let or const inside that room, well, they can't be seen or touched from the outside world. It's a fundamental rule of privacy in JavaScript, and it's super important to understand. And that brings us to our final culprit, the early call. This one is all about timing. It's like trying to ask a question to someone before they've even walked into the room. You're calling out their name, but there's nobody there to answer yet. So in this example, we're trying to log the age variable before we've actually declared it using let. Now with modern JavaScript variables, I'm talking let and const, you simply cannot access them before the line where they are initialized. This is because of something called the Temporal Dead Zone. It's a fancy name for a simple rule. The order of operations is absolutely critical. You have to define it before you can use it, period. Okay, so we've identified our three main suspects. We know their methods, we know how they operate, but knowing the problem is really only half the battle. So how do you become the detective that cracks this case every single time without breaking a sweat? Well, the solution is to always use a detective's checklist. Think of this as your personal toolkit, your standard operating procedure for interrogating any reference error you encounter. It's a reliable, three-step process to find the culprit fast. So whenever you see that error, you just methodically go through these steps. First, check spelling. Is it a simple typo? Is the casing right? This is how you'll catch the typo. Second, check scope. Is my variable trapped inside some curly braces somewhere? This will immediately expose the scope trap. And finally, third, check order. Am I trying to use a let or const variable before I declare it? And that's how you unmask the early call. And honestly, that's it.
By systematically checking for typos, then for scope traps, and then for ordering issues, you're not just guessing anymore. You are investigating. You now have the skills and the checklist to confidently solve this error every single time it pops up. Case closed.
So there you have it. You've just turned one of the most common and frustrating parts of JavaScript into a simple, solvable puzzle. You know how to read the clues, and you know how to catch the culprits. The only question left is, feeling this empowered with this new knowledge, what coding mystery are you going to decide to crack next?